You all hear me? It's Jim.
We hear you, Jim. And
Little soft there, Jim. Might be on our end. Matt, can you just verify that volume's coming through okay?
Yeah, it is, Calvin.
Thank you, sir. Tammy, can we go just slightly on that one? Thank you so much. Good evening. The July 28th, 2022 Whatcom County Planning Commission meeting is called to order. I will call the roll. We do have several members here, Planning Commission members here in person. And so we're going to try to do a hybrid here tonight. And so we'll start here. Rob, will you just announce who you are and that you're here?
Yep, Rob Bartel, Dominic Mosseri, Scott Van Dalen,
And Kelvin Barton. Now we'll go to attendees via Zoom. Atul Deshmani. Jim Hansen,
Here.
Stephen Jackson,
Here.
Julie Jefferson, and Kimberly Lund will not be here. All right, please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, it's time for a department update, and Assistant Planning Director Steve Roberge. Go ahead.
Thank you. So August, depending on what we do tonight with the wireless, if we have any business to continue with that, we'll continue that or first meeting in August. Otherwise, we cancel both meetings in August. September, we'll be talking about buildable lands, and Matt will be back to talk to us about that. And watershed amendments, which you guys passed as a recommendation to the council at your last meeting. Those are going to the council in September. And then I also wanted to let you know about also going to council actually at their next meeting in August 9th. Bellingham is bringing a proposal to umbrella wetland bank. And so they're working with the county to get that permitted. So they'll be doing a presentation to council on that. That's about it. Unless there's questions.
Any questions for Steve? Right, thank you. So now is the time for open session for public comment. And Tammy, would you go ahead and take over?
certainly. Okay, welcome to the meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live. The audio is being recorded and will be posted to the county website. As noted on our website, members of the public may watch the meeting or join in person. They can join online or in person or by phone. During the open public comment session, speakers may not speak to items that are scheduled on the agenda for public hearing this evening. We do not have a public hearing this evening, so you will be able to talk about the topic that is on the agenda if you'd like to. So for those who are present, if you would like to do public comment, we're going to start with you first. And what we'll do is we'll have you come to the podium, print your full name on the sign-up sheets for records purposes. And if you're participating remotely and would like to speak virtually, raise your hand and we'll get to you shortly. To raise your hand, you'll be pressing the hand icon, or if you're calling in, you'll be pressing *9. Okay, so would either of you that are present like to speak tonight to anything, any public comment? You would have 3 minutes if you would like to.
Yeah,
Okay, why don't you come up to the podium? And I'm going to start a timer. You go ahead and sign in and I will let you know when the timer is ready to go.
Okay.
And then,
Yes, go after him.
sure, that would be fine. Just one moment. There's my share screen here.
Do you need that address or just the?
No, we don't have to have the address, thank you. Unless you're from, are you from Whatcom County?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. One moment. Just- Okay, so I'll have you announce your full name and you'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Tim Holland. I'm a resident of Whatcom County and concerned about the 5G cell tower. I don't know how the political process works. I don't know what the planning commission does or if you have a role to play in that. But my understanding is that an agreement was signed with the Dish Corporation, a for-profit organization, to put a 5G tower in it. The water district had signed the agreement. They did it in violation of the clearly in violation of the law because they didn't do the process right. And they fully admit that they didn't do the process right. They didn't bring the public into it for public comment. They just signed an agreement. I think at this point, the agreement, the water district would be concerned that they would be sued if they didn't perform under the agreement and allow the tower to be built. And that a court might then say, well, you have to perform, sign the agreement. My understanding is that in order for the tower to be built, they need to get a variance because there needs to be 135-foot radius around the tower. And there's a section where that radius falls outside of the property of the water district. And so in order for this tower to be built, there needs to be this circle around that's big enough. There's not. And so my understanding is that the next step for Dish is to go to the county and say, first there's a SEPA review. If that passes, then Dish would go to the county and say, hey, we want to build this. We've had an agreement, but we need to get a variance. And so give us a variance. I don't know if that's this group. I don't know if that's the county council. But what I'm saying is that the neighborhood is completely up in arms about this. Our property value would be significantly impacted by a 5G tower. It's not safe. It's not. There's lots of thousands of studies saying it's not a safe thing. And I want to say that sounds like just NIMBYism, not in my backyard. I don't want one here. Where are you going to put it? I really want to address that topic. Okay, so what I want to say is that in order to get 5G service to the community, you don't have to have a tower. You can do a fiber optic cables. The city of Bellingham has fiber optic. They don't need towers in order to get 5G. The county is under no obligation to provide 5G. This is simply, the reason this agreement was signed was for $1,400 a month income from a third party to have a tower up. There's no obligation of anybody, the county or the water district, to provide 5G. It was just an income for $1,400 a month. It's so far out of balance with the impact to the neighborhood and how stirred up everybody. So if this group has anything to do with approving a variance to allow this to go forward, please don't. Because we are just adamant this should have never happened. It didn't get the public comment that was required. And there's no obligation here to provide a third party, to allow a third party for-profit organization to provide a service to the community. They can do it a number of different ways. It doesn't need to be this.
Your time is
So-
up. Thank you.
We hold on just a moment and we don't handle the variances, but Steve maybe can have a comment about the variance process.
Any insight you could give would be terrific.
I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. It is an ongoing application that we have in. And like I say, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, but not a part of what the planning commission is talking about.
Super. Anything I can learn would be great. Anything we can do that. Not have illegal processes put us in this jam in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you want to come on up and sign in for me, please. Go ahead and say your full name for the record. and the
Great,
next
my
few
name's
minutes.
Kevin Bardosh. Hi.
Go ahead,
Great.
please.
So I'm a professor at the University of Washington and Edinburgh Medical School in the UK. And a couple of years ago, we realized that my wife's migraines were being caused by wireless radiation. came as a shock to me. I was very skeptical, and it took me to basically spend a huge amount of my time over the last couple of years diving into the scientific evidence in this area, communicating with scientists around the world, and understanding the controversy, both from a regulatory standpoint, but also from a scientific standpoint. It's been a massive headache. I wish I never had to dive into this area. It's also revealed to me the state of democratic input into the process by which cell towers receive regulatory approval at a county level and also federal level. And I think that there is a lot of there's massive questions about the lobbying efforts of the industry itself, and how these laws, like my fellow, actually I live in Geneva neighborhood as well, and I'm very involved in what's going on, disempower citizens. So my wife and I proposed 3 amendments to the code. And I would just like you to, as you're going through this, consider the reasonableness of these amendments, right? So amendment number 1 is, and I quote, the placement of a micro or macro wireless facility must not increase the wireless radiation, frequency radiation on the property of an individual diagnosed with microwave illness / electrosensitivity, if that would result in their displacement. So people, if you have a 5G cell tower, it's set up in front of somebody's home who has microwave illness condition sensitivity, they will have to leave, they'll have to move. You will be effectively displacing them, like a flood displaces people out of their homes. And so we're proposing an amendment that considers the unique vulnerabilities and health circumstances of those individuals. Number 2, the placement, and I've met many people who have been displaced in this way. And as I mentioned, I think on another call, there is a precedent in the Netherlands, legal precedent for considering these people in the placement of these facilities. Number 2, the placement of a micro or macro wireless facility must consider the potential reproductive, migratory, or behavioral impacts on native animal species. You might say, oh, that's up to the EPA. The EPA has not set standards for animals or plants since the 1980s. Okay, so there are no safe standards for animals or vulnerable native species. Number 3, and this gets to the issue about citizen input, of which my understanding is that the amendments that you were going to be voting on today will actually disempower communities further. So we actually won't even have some of the rights that we're now disputing. So we're proposing, after being notified about a macro or micro wireless infrastructure, a community has 60 days to organize a response to the proposal. If 70% of households within 300 feet of potential wireless infrastructure decide and sign documentation that they do not want the proposed project to proceed in their locality, the proposal is hereby withdrawn in the interests of the majority of local residents. This amendment is necessary to protect Whatcom County citizens from the significant depreciation of their property values by the imposition of controversial infrastructure without their input. And I'd like for all of you to consider, if you're going to pass these amendments, be prepared to have a cell tower erected in your front yard without your consent, without notification. Wake up one day and it's going to be there, because that's essentially what you're voting for. So thank you very much. We're happy to talk further if you're interested.
All right, so we have several attendees with their hands up. Diane, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you. I'm Diane Foster, and I'm currently in remission from leukemia following a bone marrow transplant. I've done extensive studies on the relationship between cell towers and cell non-ionizing radiation and leukemia. And I don't want a tower anywhere in Bellingham. I don't even live in Geneva, but I've donated $300 for a lawyer to fight this cell tower. And I totally am in agreement with the 3 proposed amendments by the Geneva neighborhood, which were just spoken to by the previous speaker. And I'm in favor of fiber optic, which is safer and cheaper. And in fact, it's on my Facebook page, Safe Broadband for All, and publicly financed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Steve. You can go ahead and unmute, state your full name for the record, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Stephen Kersey. I am a resident of the Geneva area. And the property I own in Geneva is closer to the proposed cell phone tower than any other residential property. I bought that property because it's in a pristine natural setting, and now there's going to be a 13-story cell phone tower just a little more than 100 feet away from the property, and it will totally destroy that setting, not only for me, but for all of the residents in Geneva, the people across the lake in Silver Beach, and in other areas will be able to see it. So it's going to really diminish the quality of the neighborhood, the Geneva area neighborhood. And it's going to have a lot of impacts in a lot of different ways. Previous speakers have talked about the radiation impact in individuals and wildlife. Geneva happens to be an important wildlife corridor between Galbraith Mountain and the lakefront. One thing that's not been brought up is that there are two elementary schools in the Geneva area, not far from the proposed cell phone tower. One is Geneva Elementary, and then there's a Waldorf school. And then the FERS has two programs that bring in a lot of kids to that part of Geneva. And that's not very far away from the cell phone tower. One is an after-school program, and the other is a summer day camp. And if you combine all that together, there are hundreds of kids that will be coming into Geneva on an almost daily basis throughout the year. And if you're at all concerned about the implications to what that cell phone tower could do to people in general, think about the kids. It can seriously impact the health of potentially hundreds of kids, not only now, but going out over decades, because this tower has a proposed 50-year lifespan under the lease. So anyway, the impact to the community at large will be tremendous. Another major concern is I've spoken to several Geneva area residents who are thinking about selling properties to move out of the area if the tower is approved. And they'll likely take a pretty big hit on the value of their property and will likely not be able to purchase a similar property without taking on either more debt or coming up with a bigger down payment. So the implications for it, for the community at large and the individuals living in the community are significant, and I strongly oppose approval of the tower. And I would like to also point out that the approval was done in violation of state law. A prior speaker mentioned that. So it's just wrong on a lot of different levels. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I hope I pronounced this right. Nilo, go ahead and state your full name for the record, please. And you can go ahead, 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Nilo Camden. I'm also a Geneva resident, and I just wanted to echo the sentiments of my other Geneva neighborhood folks that spoke today. They hit on all the details about the concern that my wife and I have regarding health issues, the impact to the environment, and our property values. And like it was said, we have walked around the neighborhood and talked to several people. They're aware of the issue and very concerned, and have donated money towards a land use attorney to represent us in fighting this. And we're in it and very passionate about this issue, because it impacts our community in a very negative way in this beautiful area that is pristine and untouched. So thank you for your time, and I encourage you to vote no on the tower.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Jana Feldberg. You'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Jana Feldberg. I'm also a resident of the Geneva area. I'm actually technically right across the street from the proposed area. So I'd like to join all of the neighbors in the opposition of this tower. my house is one of the closest. I know there's one definitely that's closer that has an infant. I've got 3 people that live here, and we are going to be affected by this. I'm already disabled, have multiple health issues, one of which is a clotting issue. So my concern is significant. Also, the way that it was handled. I definitely have reservation with regards to that. Realistically, it would be really nice if we could trust the government and our officials in which to follow the rules, follow the laws. I want to follow the laws. So I would appreciate keeping in mind the people that this is affecting. Again, just like the other residents have stated, this is an absolutely beautiful area. And, people are going to move. They're, it's destructive. So if that makes a difference, if the people make a difference, I would appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Jana.
Okay, next will be Danica, then Lori, then Martin. So go ahead, Danica, please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Danica Thiessen, and right now you're seeing the spinoff from the impacts of the amendments that you're going to make will disempower our communities further. And as you can see, it's a hard sell at the community level to take away all of people's rights about the infrastructure in their own area. So I would say that if you're pressured into voting yes or abstaining from voting for these changes, what you're doing is you're supporting corporate domination and stealing the power of people in Whatcom County. A vote is a vote. And whether or not every attorney in the room says one must obey such and such federal code, we all know what undemocratic laws look like. Progress at the expense of democracy is not progress at all, but an opportunity for the consolidation of profit. If you don't want your neighbors to lose out, vote against these amendments. They take away our rights. It's not right that codes would cancel the input of a community that they have about infrastructure in their own neighborhood. In the United States, we don't devalue massive numbers of homes without compensation. While Verizon and AT&T stand to make enormous profits, homeowners stand to lose. Why? Because people don't want to buy homes near radiation emitting wireless infrastructure. But since this new code that you are going to pass, you think, this new code doesn't allow us to consider the damage done by 24/7 radiation, that means that people getting cancer and dying from it is acceptable according to these laws. This meeting is recorded and will be disseminated to others living in Whatcom County. I don't own a cell phone, and that's because I have read and I know the risks of neurological degeneration and cancer. So why should my property, because of the code you're planning on passing, be now exposed to this industrial toxic radiation? It's similar like if I had a property in an organic garden, I do not want my property sprayed with DDT or other cancer-causing chemicals. These ideas are only controversial because corporations like Verizon and Monsanto's wield too much power and can dictate policy to citizens. Hardly anyone even living in Whatcom County knows about this meeting, but when Whatcom citizens find out about the implications to their lives, they will feel betrayed. Do you want that to be your legacy?
Thank you, Danica.
Okay. Lori, please state your full name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, unmute. Hello, my name is Lori Hill. Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
We do hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm on vacation, but I thought it was important enough to call into this meeting to state my name and my position on this. I too live in the Geneva area. I understand that you are looking to adopt federal rules and regulations on these cell towers. As others have stated, we in the Geneva area have very little voice or opportunity to state our disheartened minds on this cell tower going into our neighborhood. As I understand it, if this is passed at the federal level, that we will have even less of a voice, which really terrifies me. I think that as a tax-paying citizen and a person of the Whatcom County, I should be able to have a voice of what is being put into my neighborhood, into my area, and into my home. These towers and these proposals that are being put forth will directly affect my home value. It is my biggest asset, my home. I have worked years and years to have this home, to gain the equity that's in there. And from consulting with numerous real estate agents, my home value will go down if cell towers are put in. So if this is being voted on, I would ask that you put some amendments in there to allow the citizens that are being impacted by this to have some say, to have some input into it, and not to just be railroaded over for the betterment of a huge corporation. Please consider your neighbors and your citizens of our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, Martin, please say your full name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Martin Driscoll, and thank you for the 3 minutes to speak here. Some of the previous speakers, very well said. I live very close to the proposed site. Initially, when I started getting involved on this process, a lot of the people who are being directly affected by this, especially with a 30% home value hit instantly, along with the expenses that are left in the wake of that, you're looking at 40% of your home is just gone. And if we're going to lose that much on our homes that quickly, I, for one, and many others would not be against taking a loan out. Let's take some money out of these houses and we will put it into a pool at $30,000, $50,000 a piece, and we will fight this tooth and nail. And you know, this is outrageous that this is going this close. I think even the normal don't live within 400 meters of this thing. I'm under almost 80. This is, and as far as this day and age of like, we need to keep everybody from speaking on anything. Generating legislation to make sure nobody gets to hear about it or talk about it is just, you know, it's un-American and it's disgraceful. Excluding people. So there's a lot of health issues in here, and we all know about how they want to keep that quiet too. We're not allowed to talk about that. So vote your conscience on this, because there will be consequences and it could just only aggravate the problem. Thanks for my time.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. There are 4 more attendees. Would any of you like to speak? If you've joined by phone and would like to raise your hand, you would use *9. If you're on a mobile device, you can use the hand icon. Okay, Elizabeth, go ahead and state your full name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Ruff, and I live at 4360 Lake Hill Lane. And I am fully in support of the 3 proposed amendments that are proposed for the county to review regarding the cell tower. Excuse me, Luna, no, thank you, honey. I'm on a call. Thank you. Sorry. So the 3 proposed amendments being notified about the micro and macro wireless infrastructure. A community should have 60 days to organize a response to the proposal. And if 70% of households within 3,000 feet of the potential wireless infrastructure location decide and sign documentation that they do not want the proposed project to proceed in their locality, the proposal is thereby withdrawn in the interest of the majority of the local residents. This amendment is necessary to protect Whatcom County citizens from the significant depreciation of their property values by the imposition of controversial infrastructure without their input. Number 2, the placement of micro or macro wireless facility. Faculty must not increase the RF radiation of the property of an individual diagnosed with microwave illness, electrosensitivity, if that would result in their displacement. And number 3, the placement of the micro and macro wireless facility must consider the potential reproductive, migratory, and behavioral impacts on native species. So I have lived in the Geneva neighborhood since 2012. And one of the things that I've really valued about being up here is that we do not have towers in our immediate space. So I felt really comfortable not only raising my kids, but birthing my kids here and having them attend the nearby school, the Whatcom Hills Waldorf School. My son has been going to that school since he was 16 months old. And there are 200 families that have kids at the Whatcom Hills Waldorf School, which is very close proximity to where the cell tower will be installed. So I know that health is not something that is really considered with these cell towers, but I would like to name that as far as I'm concerned about the school, that is the property value is a big part of the school budgeting process. And so if there's any effect to the property value, it would really diminish the financial aid that I am able to receive to attend that school with my 2 kids. In addition, as a self-employed business owner, my only source of future retirement is in my house, and I'm extended as far as I can get with that. So it would be a travesty if my property value decreased at all. Thank you so much. And I made it in 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, now phone number ending in 929, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. You would do that by pressing *6. That's phone number ending in 929. I don't see a name. Are you able to unmute? You press *6. Oh, we heard you for a moment.
I think they just muted Tammy. I think they need to hit *6 again.
They'll unmute again. Go ahead and hit *6 again. Your phone looks open. Would you like to try to speak? Say your full name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes. We don't hear you. Phone number ending in 929. Would you like to try calling back in? Okay, your phone just went mute again.
Hello.
Okay, we hear you.
Hello, can you
Your name for the record.
Can you hear me?
We can. Can you hear us?
So my name is Jerry. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. My name is Jerry Ray. I live at 1101 Lakeview Street. I've been here 17 years. We have a family within 1 block of the proposed tower with 4 generations. I have the cancer gene. I've had a double mastectomy and a hysterectomy. My granddaughter, who is 5, spent her first 3 months at Children's Hospital. She can't absorb food through her bowels. My mother's lot is below Stephen Kersey's lot at, her name is Donnabelle Winston. Her lot is 977 Lakewood Lane. My mother's 83. Her great-grandchildren love to spend time with her. They love to be outside. They play in the water. They ride on the sidewalk, which is probably 200 to 300 feet from the proposed tower. Now, with Aubriana's past medical history and the proposed tower, my grandkids couldn't be outside any longer. Please, please, don't do the cell tower. My family is important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment who has not yet spoken tonight? If you've called in by phone, you can press *9. On other mobile devices, you may hit the hand icon. No other hands are raised.
Thank you, everyone that spoke and everyone that's attending that didn't speak. Appreciate you being here. Time now for commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? Commissioner Desmati. For the record, Commissioner Desmati. Yes. Yes, go
So
ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to apologize for joining 5 minutes late, but I did listen to all the comments from the public and definitely impacted by them.
Commissioner Hanson.
I had communications with Kevin Barton, one of the speakers and the writers, by email in response to his letter to all of us. I have comments on this topic, which I will reserve for when we discuss it.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay, let's move on to approval of minutes for July 14th meeting. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Even though I'm gonna abstain, I would make the motion, just with our meeting along, to approve the minutes of July 14th.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or corrections, additions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Tammy.
I added a period to the end of the sentence ending on line 18, so it was just a typo.
Okay, I don't think we need that. an amendment to the motion.
Okay. All right.
Hearing no additions or corrections, Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
Okay, Commissioner Bartel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Desmani, we didn't hear you. Is that abstain? Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Abstain.
all right, Commissioner Mosseri,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Dalen,
Yes.
Commissioner Barton.
Yes.
Okay, so with those abstaining 4, so that does carry. Thank you.
So now it's time for our work session on wireless amendments. Matt Ahmed, would you go ahead?
Sure. For the record, my name is Matt Ahmet, representing Planning and Development Services. And as you know, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on the wireless code amendments on June 23rd. And at that hearing, we reviewed federal laws that were passed by the US Congress and federal rules adopted by the FCC relating to wireless facilities. And some of those preempt local government authority, and we had the county attorney provide some comments on those too. So wireless industry representatives suggested several modifications to the proposal relating to anti-climbing devices, considering when such devices are appropriate or needed, antennas on roofs or structures, like allowing greater flexibility to mount antennas on existing structures, and temporary uses, allowing more than 1 6-month extension. So as requested by the Planning Commission, the Planning Development Services Department reviewed these comments and recommended modifications in revised Exhibit A, that's draft County Code 20.13 amendments. And the modifications are highlighted in yellow in your packet with rationale statements in the box below explaining the reason for the proposed changes. And as mentioned in the staff memo, those are on pages 23 through 25 and 30 of Exhibit A. As mentioned tonight in the public comments, we also had received an email, I think it was yesterday, proposing several things, including regulations based upon radio frequency emissions, also native species, wildlife rules, and rules relating to public opposition stopping a wireless proposal. And we have consulted with legal counsel on those, the county attorney, and there are some potential federal preemption issues associated with those proposals contained in the public comment. I would like to note that on Exhibit E, page 5, there is new text that should have been underlined that wasn't. I'm going to show that on the screen in just a moment. It's a very minor thing, but I wanted to alert you to that because it's new text. Additionally, if you get to it tonight or whenever you make a recommendation on this, I would like to add a reference to this work session in the findings. So we also do have Craig Ostrom from our current planning division who processes wireless permit applications here, and legal counsel for the county, Royce Buckingham. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment. Okay, can you see that Exhibit E? Is that visible, Exhibit E?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is exhibit in the packet. It's amending the County Code 2205 project permit procedures. And on page 5, there's just a minor thing that we neglected to underline. It's actually, so this is classifying permits and the process they need to go through for different types of things. And this is major variances for wireless. This is all new and this is underlined, as you can see. And so that was all in your packet. Just this first part, zoning or critical area variance major, should have been underlined also because it's new text. So it's kind of, you know, this is all new. So anyway, I just want to alert you to that. So you're aware of that. That concludes our presentation. If you have any comments, we try to address those. Or questions?
Commissioner Hanson.
Since what we're talking about here isn't whether there will be cell towers or not, but under what conditions they will be erected, and if we were to not pass these amendments, what would be the impact on a utility that wanted to erect a cell tower?
Well, as I understand it, our current planning division is administering the federal rules as they exist. So for example, we have eligible facility requests, which are these, the FCC would say, more minor facilities. You're putting maybe an antenna on an existing tower or structure. So the federal law and rules say that the county has to approve those. We cannot deny them. And we have to do so in 60 days or they're deemed approved. So that's not really in our existing code, but we're administering it as if it were. In other words, we're recognizing the preemptive effect of the federal law, and we're essentially administering federal law right now. So I don't think from a practical point of view, I don't know if Craig, if you have any comments on that, or Royce, but from a practical point of view, we are trying to administer these things. Putting it in our code clarifies what the rules are, and makes it clear for administrators, the public, anybody looking at the code. It's not kind of hidden away somewhere in federal rules that people can't see or understand.
Yeah, I would agree with what Matt just said. We don't have a choice in whether we administer the federal rules or not. And there can be consequences if we ignore those, because there's a federal shot clock that starts ticking away under certain circumstances. And our code doesn't really speak to any of those things. So it just adds confusion to the permit process.
Any questions for Matt or Craig? Craig, I have a question for you. You said under some circumstances. What does that mean?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that the federal shot clock, which is laid out in this code proposal, is running, but it's not iterated in our current code. So we have to look to the federal code and try to figure out what is preempted and what is not. So I guess that's what I'm speaking to.
And with these eligible facility requests, the federal rules are a little bit different, because they say if the county does not act within 60 days and the applicant notifies us, that these proposals are deemed granted, that they're kind of automatically approved. So we lose our, any permitting authority. With the other ones, with the small wireless and the macro wireless, the federal rules have what they call presumptively reasonable timeframes for processing, which might be 60, 90, or 150 days, depending on the type of permit. And with those, there's not a deemed granted remedy, but then the applicant can basically take the county to court for failure to act within those timeframes. They're kind of, I call them safe harbor. If you act within those timeframes, then you're kind of insulated from lawsuit. If you fail to meet those timeframes, then they can bring court action against the county.
Commissioner Desmati.
So I'm going to make a assumption. Other commissioners and staff may not agree with the assumption, but I'd like to make this assumption for the purposes of discussion. Let us assume, for purpose of this discussion, that increased cell towers in the Geneva neighborhood will have a harmful impact on the inhabitants of Whatcom County. It's just, You may or may not agree with that, but let's just say that's a fact. If that was a fact, what methods can Whatcom County undertake to protect the citizens of Whatcom County? And I have a second question, but I'll wait till this one gets answered.
So there are, that cell tower is a conditional use under current code. It would be a conditional use under this proposed code. There are conditional use criteria. One is something to the effect it won't be hazardous or disturbing to neighboring, properties. I could bring it up to get the exact language. But the issue is that the federal rules state that the county cannot regulate things based upon radio frequency emissions if they're within the limits set by the federal government. So that kind of limits kind of what our authority is over.
Just want to make sure, Matt, the first part of what you said is harmful. Harmful, the word harmful doesn't say anything about frequencies. It just says that if it's harmful, that are damaging to nearby occupants, it can't be done. So would that not give homeowners association and residents the ability to work with that to present a legal challenge if they so wanted to prosecute that?
So I'm looking at the language now. It says, these are the conditional use criteria. One of them is will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future neighboring uses. I guess, and maybe, Royce might have to chime in on this, but I guess, that's a generally applicable criterion. However, the federal government says in this one area of regulation, radio frequency emissions, the local government can't regulate. And I think I might have that one too here somewhere. I might have to find that one, but I can bring that up on the screen also. Okay, here it is. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so this is 47 United States Code 332. You go down to section C7. And let's see, which one is it here? Okay, here it is. No state, this is 7A or 7B for no state or local government may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with the commissions, that's the FCC regulations concerning such emissions. So we do have a clause in the proposal that the applicant would have to document that they're in compliance with FCC rules.
The environment and health effect, correct?
Yeah, goods health effect.
Commissioner Hanson.
Well,
Is
part
there
of my,
anybody else who'd like to address my first question? Because I want to make sure that I hear everybody.
go ahead and I'll ask my question after that this is dealt with.
So what was the question again?
No, you addressed it, Matt. I wanted to hear if Royce or anybody else wanted to address the question.
Hi, this is Royce Buckingham. I think you're asking if we can imagine like the lawsuit would ensue if somebody went to the hearing examiner and said, we think that there is environmental harm to the residents and that fits under county code and therefore they shouldn't get a CUP. So if I'm imagining that lawsuit, and I hate to speculate, but I'll give you advice because that's what I do. My advice is that, or my opinion is that that would then go to the Superior Court. The Superior Court would say, well, are you preempted? The proponents of the project would say, yeah, they're preempted. They can't do that. And the Superior Court would read that very plain language of the federal statute and say, I hate to say it, but you're preempted, Whatcom County. You can't deny it based on the radio frequency. Now, if it was some other environmental danger that's not listed in the federal or not preempted under federal law, then perhaps a local group could prevail by appealing and saying this is dangerous because, and I'll give you the stupid example, the cell tower is going to fall over on someone. And if that was the finding, then, and it's not radio frequency, then you might prevail, and the hearing examiner might say, no, we're not going to let them do it because it's dangerous to the local residents. And the Superior Court can say, yeah, I think I agree with that. These are prone to fall over. You can't do it there. And that would be something outside of the radio frequency preempted issue that the county can't regulate. Mr. Deshmani, does that answer your question?
I mean, we may discuss this issue further, but I appreciate your explanation and,
Okay.
and idea, an example.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Hanson, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering why anyone would need a variance if the hearing examiner had no power to deny the variance. So does this mean that the variance is required because of the other non-electromagnetic factors in the project?
Greg, would you handle that one? This is for the Geneva Tower you're talking about?
Any tower, I don't care. There's this TV show called Westworld where the robots have taken over and they've erected giant cell towers that they're sending out radiation to control the behavior of all the humans. But who knows? But I'm just asking why you need a variance if you can't if it can't be denied.
Well, variances are typically for dimensional requirements like height or setback or something like that. And the hearing examiner does have authority over those. That's just a local land use decision. He just, that's different from radio frequency emissions. So.
Yeah, so in the example of the Geneva Tower, they requested a variance to the setbacks in one direction. And that's something the staff would weigh in on whether they support it once the application's being processed again. And it's something the hearing examiner would have authority over whether he thought that variance was valid or not, whether the applicant proved their case under that variance criteria.
So I'll speak, and I didn't expect to be saying this part tonight. I know a few of you are aware. We had a lot of questions about health issues, and some of you know that I was born with a very severe disease, which is lifelong, and so I identify with, and it's life-threatening, and I identify with those that spoke about health issues. And so but I'm here tonight and I'm going to be as spare as I can be. But I do have concerns about not being allowed to put anything in that has to do with health issues. And so I have a question for Royce. And that is that I was looking at one of the sentences when Matt had it up on the screen, but Royce, is there not any place that it can fit in that health issues are a consideration? Maybe farther up in the application process?
Oh, we're very clearly preempted from regulating based on radio frequency. If it's other health issues, like I said, it would be okay to regulate. But it couldn't be more plain in the federal law. And, I hear what everyone's saying about how can the federal government do this to us and not let us speak. But I'm just telling you that put something in there to regulate radio frequency and somebody sues or appeals, I think we just lose. maybe people want to fight the federal battle here in Whatcom County, but, I don't think a few $100s from the residents hiring a local attorney is going to do that. I'm not seeing studies that overcome a federal standard or those sorts of things. And for the county to engage in that fight and sort of take it on would be overwhelming. I don't think the county could win that. And that would be my opinion. So I don't think there's any place in there for you to try to sneak it in or squeeze it in, or, it just doesn't, it's not in our purview. So I guess we said that a bunch last meeting, and we're saying it again, and it doesn't mean we like it, but people ask me because, they just want to know, what the facts are, or what the law is, I guess.
And then just one more question. Is then an applicant allowed basically to choose anywhere they want in Whatcom County to put a tower?
Well, the county does have rules on siting priorities that are in your packet. And the higher priorities are like co-locating on an existing tower or building or structure. And then you get into, down the line, new towers, that type of thing. And there's also priorities with regard to zoning, like industrial zones versus residential zones, that type of thing. So basically, if it's not the highest priority location, they have to show that, why higher priority locations are not available or feasible.
Thank you. Commissioner Desmani.
Right. I am what we can do in code modifications that give room for the communities that are affected to effectively forestall or inhibit projects that are planned for their neighborhoods. What tools we can give them to give them greater local control to fight the battle individually, assuming that Royce is correct in saying that it's not a battle that Whatcom County can fight or win.
Commissioner Hanson.
I said this last week, and I responded in writing to the concerned citizens. And I consider 5G an abomination, and it's an insult to our communities and an insult to communication. They should have fiber optic everywhere on the rural areas before they even start touching the urban areas with the 5G. But everything our legal folks have and our staff have told us is indisputable. And the other advice I gave, and I'll continue to give, is one, there are federal elections going on. There are candidate forums. There are people who are running for office who do have a say in these rules. And you can go to those forums, you can write letters, you can petition, and you can try to impact the positions they take back to Washington, D.C., where they can do something. That's one angle. The other angle is this is a national situation. If the adverse impacts can be proven, it's ripe for a class action suit. Not little Whatcom County, but thousands and thousands of people throughout the whole nation joining together to fight this. So when the dog's barking, I think it's the dog's fault, but really it's the owner's fault, and you got to go talk to the owner. You got to go to DC to change this, not Whatcom County.
Commissioner Desmani.
So there are specific, to answer the point that Commissioner Hanson made, there are communities all over the country that have enacted local code that some would argue violates the FCC's preemption. But there's also communities that have made it less pleasant for the construction of these kinds of towers. And I think we have as an option to also make it maximally unpleasant. One. Number two, we have it as an option to add mechanisms that public interest class action suits, which are underway and have actually been successfully waged and won in certain communities around the country. And then lastly, to just make it painful. So I would like to explore that as an option. And I would also agree with Commissioner Hansen's statement. Cellular-based internet consumes 1 to 2 orders of magnitude more energy to deliver the same, actually 1 to 3 orders of magnitude more energy to deliver the same amount of data. So in a world where we're thinking about efficiency and energy efficiency and carbon, it's also unwise to rely on cellular communication for transfer of data. Our PUD has made it, the PUD is, for example, and the port, for example, have publicly stated that they don't support cellular-based internet because it's not future-proof. These devices don't last very long and they have to constantly be replaced. Starlink satellites, for example, as another example, this isn't about Starlink, but have a very short lifespan. And then they come crashing to Earth and then more satellites. So the rocket fuel, that's a huge footprint. So I'm just saying that there's for many reasons why it's beneficial to our community to make this whole effort to put up more towers painful. And I'd like to see us explore those ideas.
Commissioner Bartel.
So certainly appreciate Commissioner Desmavis's approach, and I wouldn't mind asking staff, is it feasible for them to look into how, I don't know what the mechanisms are today to propose, because the maximum, say pain, but difficulty for these things to be cited here. That's something that staff could look at for us.
So this is Matt again, with County Planning. So in the proposed findings, in order to approve a zoning amendment, it has to be consistent with the Whatcom County Comprehensive Plan. And so we've got some, policies set forth in the draft findings about the comp plan. And some of those talk about, supporting development regulations that are flexible, receptive, innovation advances, et cetera, minimize time required for processing utility permits, utility support user access, things like that. So, it'd probably be difficult for us to, and the other thing is telecommunication towers are an essential public facility under the comp plan. And so it talks about using established permitting processes to process essential public facilities. So, I would have concern as staff for PDS of trying to make process more difficult when, the policies in the comp plan seem to be, going the other way. So.
Commissioner Desmond.
Fiber is essential. And certainly some cellular is essential. But I think perhaps that could be an issue that's visited in the comp plan to determine essential wireless services like fire stations, related services that are wireless, and then also identify non-essential wireless. Could that kind of differentiation be made in the comp plan?
I think it could, but I guess I'm just saying right now, comp plan amendments have to be docketed, council considers what to docket or what to, I guess we're having a 2025 update coming up here for the comp plan. I'm just saying right now, the comp plan says that Whatcom County has designated telecommunication towers as essential public facilities. So it could be changed in the future, but that's what it is right now.
Commissioner Hanson.
I would just wonder if Commissioner O'Toole might have some amendments to improve the public responsiveness of these rules if we gave him some time to work on it. I wonder if we would want to consider just tabling this for additional work.
Commissioner Desmond.
Hey, glad with the staff and some of the people that spoke, and perhaps the chair to create a red line version to propose to the commission at an upcoming meeting. And I also wanted to say that there were several people that, I was impacted by the public comment because, being a planning commission for several years now, there's been lots of public comment, but I was impressed by how thoughtful and I think not superlative compared to what I recall from Cherry Point comments that were made. And I just wanted to, but I could work with those people that would be able to provide specific technical suggestions. Of course, Kevin has provided, I believe Kevin Bardosh has provided specific changes, but to work with those and others to identify a proposed version.
Commissioners, comments on Commissioner Desmond's thoughts? In your head nod or so. Commissioner Bartel.
I certainly would be happy to join that group, and if it's appropriate to delay and give us time to review this and see what improvements we can make. I continue to be concerned like everyone else with the safety.
Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
I'm going to take the opposite approach. I'm prepared. I've reviewed what the staff has proposed, and I think they've done a good job, and I'm prepared to move forward.
Commissioner Van Dalen.
Just, just asking, is there a timeline? We've been working on this. Does the county have a timeline that things need to be moved along? I'm just asking the question timeline wise or schedules or.
Yeah. Well, it's, these are in the federal law and the federal rules right now. We're kind of administering them, as if they were county code. So, I think if you wanted to defer, I don't think that would be a big issue with us.
Commissioner Masseri.
Yeah, I see both sides to, keep things moving, not to slow them down, but also to make sure that whatever we push through is has been thought out. I would ask if Atul thought that he thought it was appropriate to postpone this and do another session through the planning commission, or if the work that he's going to suggest could be done before it goes to the council. If he has an opinion on that, there'd be another time for public to comment at that point too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had the ability to make proposed. I mean, what happens then is I have to write a minority report that would go as an attachment to something that we would vote and pass from the planning commission before we go to the council. And I would, in its current form, I couldn't support what's being proposed right now by staff.
Commissioner Masseri.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Although sometimes we do say that we are passing this, but are recommending that staff in the interim before it's presented again, they work with a certain group or research a certain item that we think would be helpful for the council to look at. So I'll leave it there.
Commissioner Desmani.
To address Commissioner Masseri's point, that's a very good point. I just had this feeling that that there's such a gap between what's currently proposed is and the commentary we got today from citizens that it's not a small markup.
Now we've been, go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
I mean, I would agree with Commissioner Deshmani. Like, what is being proposed is that we follow the federal law that clearly dictates, and I mean dictates what we have to do, versus no more new cell towers and fiber optic cable running to every house. I would absolutely love the alternative, but we have to, as I said, hold on. As I said in the last meeting, we have to approve something, otherwise we lose our
Point of order, Chair.
No, I'm in the middle of talking and I'd appreciate not being interrupted.
You said fiber optic cable.
What?
Okay.
Let's hold just a moment. We had a point of order. Commissioner Desmani, can you speak a little louder and succinctly tell?
I just wanted to Commissioner Jackson said wireless and fiber. This has nothing to do with fiber.
That's not a point of order. That's a disputed point.
Yeah. So I'm going to rule for Commissioner Jackson. Go ahead.
Thank you. So while we're disclosing our health deficiencies that we have, I have a mental health disorder that causes me to be severely distracted by interruptions. And so I lost my complete train of thought. So when I get it back, I will be back.
while we're quiet here, Matt, I'm getting the feel that the commissioners would like to take another last look at it, maybe another session. So I could be wrong, but I'm getting the impression that that's where the commissioners are at right now. Commissioners, correct me, please, if I'm wrong. Commissioner Masseri?
Yeah, I said, personally, I feel like if we can get something that's substance that is gonna be hopefully legal, that we can review, I can appreciate that. If we're just kicking us down another meeting to have the same discussion, we've had 2 meetings now about are our hands tied or not. I don't know if that's useful time or not. So I'd only be in favor of it if there is something that we can actually review, that we can do without putting ourselves in legal jeopardy.
Commissioner Desmond. I'm sorry, let me, go ahead.
Sorry, Chair, can you hear me better now?
Needs to be a little bit louder. We're gonna turn it up on this end.
Okay. I just wanted to address Commissioner Mosseri's concerns and agree with that. And I just wanted to say that I won't plan to propose something that's a quote unquote a pariah or something that's completely infeasible. And that's why I intend to work with staff to figure out what possibilities there are and try to assess the impact of it. And but if it's not possible, then I think we will have a very quick session for our next meeting, and perhaps staff should we can work on this post haste so that staff has the ability to put other things on our agenda if there's really not a concrete proposal.
Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
Thank you for the deference there. Yes, that was essentially what I was trying to get at, is the gulf is just too wide. So that's why I would opt for moving forward. But if we're going to table, we can do that too.
So Commissioner Desmond.
You're muted.
Commissioner Esmani, can you unmute?
I just wanted to acknowledge Commissioner Jackson's point as well. It's certainly possible that the gap is too wide for us to be able to address.
Commissioner Bartel, go ahead.
So just looking at this differently, I came into the meeting today with the understanding that our hands are kind of tied with a lot of the things that are going on, the radiation, the health impacts. And I was wondering if we couldn't craft something to the effect that, given some community members note sensitivity to the wireless radiation, the possible health impacts, and the federal laws and regulations preempting local government authority, et cetera, something along those lines, where the Planning Commission recommends to Whatcom County Council that all their goals and policies strongly encourage fiber optic networks as an alternative to wireless service facilities, or something to that concept. I wasn't sure exactly how I could tweak it to get what I was looking for, but we're stuck with this perhaps. But at the same time, at least we can send something off to the council that says, hey, do everything you can with fiber optics, because that seems to be a safer alternative.
Commissioner Desmani.
I wanted to just echo the sentiments just expressed. but putting a greater emphasis on fiber optic.
Commissioner Bartel.
Well, I'm here. Does staff feel that kind of the direction I was going, does that make sense? Is that something that we can even do in addition to this when it gets sent off to the council?
So you're talking about just a general recommendation that when the council maybe updates the comp plan or makes decisions that they emphasize fiber optic proposals. I think you can make any recommendations you want to the council. So I don't think that's outside of what you could do. Where it goes without a specific proposal, I don't know. But you could certainly put that forward to council.
Commissioner Bartel.
Would you recommend something specific? And I'm not asking now.
Our policies are in the comprehensive plan, and we're going to be updating the comprehensive plan over the next several years, culminating with the 2025 update, which is due by June of 2025. So we'll be reviewing all the chapters, including the utility chapter that addresses telecommunications. So, the other thing is that the county council right now is considering a resolution with priorities for the comp plan update. So, you could have input into that too. That might be the most practical thing.
So I wanted to suggest, how about, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner Justline.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. Sorry, Chair.
Get that.
It just occurred to me that perhaps then there can be two efforts. One is to identify an addendum. And then the other approach would be markups. And then we could have both ready for our next meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as the council resolution on priorities for the comp plan update, Steve, do you know what their time frame? I think they were trying to come down to the trying to get that finalized. You know what their time frame is?
Sorry, man. I'm straining my brain to remember. They just talked about it too.
I think it's potentially coming up pretty soon where they wanted to finalize.
They talked about it on Tuesday at their last meeting. And like I say, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain blank here on the conclusion. They did not pass it. I think they pushed it out to farther. I think they pushed it back to the P&D, the Planning Development Committee, maybe. But let me check on that. I can tell you for sure.
Okay.
Where that is.
Anyway,
that's a good point. That is a point where they're looking for what would go into the next comp plan update will be considered.
Yeah, but that resolution may be approved fairly soon. So,
Commissioner Hanson.
I advise you to send emails directly to Councilperson Galloway and Frazee and ask them to put that in, and they could probably find a place, and it might relate to equity issues, equity being one of the principles in that resolution.
Matt, I was just going to ask, I think we've had about 3 things stated and, or maybe 2, and then Commissioner Hanson had a thought to say speed it up. Are you able to have notes on that? I know things have been kind of flying and some of them are a little longer than others.
Like what type of, I mean, Tammy takes the minutes, but
Well, we talked about an amendment to the comp plan, and we're talking about when is council wanting to get to the comp plan. And we talked about Commissioner Bartel, and I won't be able to say all of it, but talking about some of our thoughts and goals in this document we're working on right now on the wireless.
I think, yeah, I mean, the wireless rules in federal law exist regardless of, what the county prioritizes for, fiber optic or not. So I think they're kind of 2 separate things. And I think with the fiber optic prioritization, you could come back at your next meeting or 2 and make a recommendation to council, but it might be too late potentially to get in their resolution. I think what Commissioner Hanson was suggesting was that you could send those directly to council members, as far as the priorities on the resolution. I think that was a single issue, but you could either handle it as a group, which might be too late for council, I don't know, or you could just individually, email council.
So
go ahead.
So Tammy's pulled up the actual summary from the council. And so they did send it back to the planning development council. So it's not, hasn't.
But will that go, so was that like August, what was the date of that, Steve? August 9th or?
What, the committee or when that
Yeah.
happened? Tuesday. So what's today? Two days ago.
But I mean, when is it going back to committee?
There wasn't a date provided. It just said held in committee.
Okay.
So
Sometimes they can go to committee during the day and act on it at night. So I don't know what the time frame for that is. So I guess I'm just saying, if you wait till a future meeting, there may be a risk that you missed the resolution. That was my only thought. And Commissioner Hanson said, his idea was, you could email the council members directly.
Oh. Matt, I get the impression that the commissioners would like something in there, even if it's can't be adopted as a code, to be adopted as a recommendation. For at least future, if we have the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, we keep hearing that we're locked into something, but I know that what I'm sensing out of the commissioners is they would like to add something to it, even if it can't be code, but to be a recommendation.
I guess in my mind, they're kind of, I know they're related, but they're 2 different things. We have a specific code amendment to the council docket to update the wireless code. And that's what, is before you. And then you've got the concept of prioritizing, fiber optic improvements in the future. And I guess I'm just saying, I don't know how that fits within this code or these findings, which the council docketed. It seems like that's kind of a separate issue that you could weigh in on and make a recommendation. And to me, it seemed like, the council's working on this prioritization resolution right now for priorities to address in the comp plan. That would seem like one avenue to do that, a practical avenue. We just don't know when they're going to. I mean, it was on council agenda last time to approve at the nighttime meeting, and they didn't. And so I don't know if they're going to do it the next meeting in September. I just don't know.
I was thinking something along the line of a preamble, or sometimes we've made a statement in some recommendation that we send, and thinking along the lines of that. Commissioner Desmond.
wanted to note also what Matt Emmett said is that the actual comp plan update doesn't happen until 2025. So there'll be ample opportunity for the planning commission to put a statement together. There's plenty of time to put a statement together, a resolution together that provides input for the comp plan update as it relates to wireless facilities.
Commissioner Hanson.
My apologies, something's come up. I have to go, something domestic. So good luck with this, and I'll catch you next meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Masseri.
I'm comfortable, if we're gonna hold, I think that I'm comfortable to hold and have whatever's gonna get brought back by a tool and stakeholders get put in front of us. If there's nothing else that we can weigh in on today, then I would say we could adjourn and come back, or if we want to move forward, but I'm ready to make a decision on one of those.
And, we have 3 commissioners here. I've seen the heads nod. Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Desmani. You have a preference?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. If we could, I'm fine coming back.
All right, and Commissioner Desmani? Commissioner Desmani, I don't think we got your comment.
I'm sorry, can you hear me, Chair? Can you hear me, Chair?
It dies sometimes, then it comes back real loud.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'd rather us wait till the next meeting.
So that I think we have a consensus that we'd like to take it to the next meeting, and Commissioner Masseri, if you'd help me here, Commissioner Desmani, I think you mentioned his proposal, and then would you go ahead with the rest that you were talking about?
Yes, that's correct. I will.
So Tammy, is the next meeting, was it August 11th?
That is the date of the next scheduled meeting, yes.
Okay, so when would the packet have to be, when would this have to be done to get in the packet?
Tuesday. Yeah, it would normally need to be in this coming Tuesday, which is August 2nd, which gives it time to get mailed out and have the commissioners review it. And so
that's a very tough one, and we are one meeting in August.
I will be gone that meeting, we talked about that before, but I want to make sure it's on the record. I will be gone.
Okay. And Commissioner Masseri, go ahead.
Could we skip next meeting and do the third meeting, or does that screw up the schedule that's already been laid out? Not the third meeting, but the third.
So what you're saying is August is a one meeting month, and instead of skipping the second meeting of the month, have the meeting then and skip the first meeting of the month.
Good.
Yeah, we have just some technical difficulties with that date. I'd rather not. But we could push that the alternative, but
go ahead, Commissioner Masseri.
If we push it out to September, maybe we can do it in conjunction with something. As Truls said, it may not be a long meeting. We don't even know what they're going to come up with. So maybe just so we don't get behind. But I'll leave that up to staff.
September meeting, the first September meeting, Matt?
Yeah, that can work.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have a consensus, and that's what we would like to do.
sorry, and that's Commissioner Desmani is gonna.
Commissioner Desmani, and you said it way better than I can say. Go ahead, Commissioner Masseri.
I'm deferring to Commissioner Desmonte to lead this. I felt he had a group that he had in mind. So I'm deferring to him for what he's going to bring back.
Okay. Will you take care of that for us, Commissioner Desmonte?
What I was saying, that I would bring back a red line version working with staff and some of the commenters over the last few weeks.
I think from PDS perspective, just to be clear what our role and, our job is to, try to make sure proposals comply with, various comp plan and policies and federal law in this case. So that would be kind of our guidelines for our input on, amendments that are proposed. So.
Understood, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I think we're done with that then. Anything else, commissioners? Ready to adjourn? Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.